just going to talk just for a little bit. Because more people ask that question. Who is Flavius Josephus? And I'm going to give an introduction today that they put in here about it before I read from this book. It says, unlike reporters who are supposed to remain detached from their subject, are historians who usually describe events that happened years, if not centuries, before they were born. Josephus Flavius was an active participant in many of the amazing events about which he wrote. The unique perspective and unparalleled historical content of his writings are a vital part of any scholar's library. This new edition with an easy-to-read typeface is the perfect way to add Josephus to your library. In addition, the inclusion of the lower numbering system, which refers the equivalent passages in the original Greek text, make it convenient to compare William Winston's classic traditions to the original text. Born Josephus ben Matthias into a family of priests, he became a priest himself. As a young man, he had spent time with an Essene sect before becoming a Pharisee at age 19. Impressed by the undefeatable power of Rome, he discouraged the Jews from their rebellion to no avail. Finally, he was swept up in the rebellion and was appointed as the commander of Galilee. When Jerusalem was destroyed, he was taken as a prisoner to Rome. His life was spared because he predicted that Vespasian would become emperor. When his prediction came true, 2 years later, Josephus was released, and he adopted the family name of the emperor, Flavius, in AD 70. He marched with Vespasian's son, Titus, on Jerusalem, which rendered him an unforgivable traitor in the eyes of some of his people. Afterwards, he retired to Rome, became a Roman citizen, and spent his days writing about his life and exploits. Josephus also began to write about the history of the Jews, perhaps as an explanation of the Jews for the Romans, and perhaps in an attempt to redeem his reputation. He wrote his Antiquities of the Jews in both Aramaic and Greek. So writing this book was a way for him to make up in his own heart for what he did to his own people. Now I'm going to read out of Luke 21 and verse 20. And then we're going to go into detail about what actually happened in 70 AD. How many of you guys been interested in what actually happened?
Right.
Luke 21:20. Are you ready? Yes. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereunto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be what? Fulfilled. Verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now I'm going to read from Flavius Josephus, Book 6, Chapter 5. The great distress the Jews were in upon the conflagration of the holy house concerning a false prophet and the sign that preceded the destruction. Everybody catch that. false prophet. While the holy house was on fire, everybody got your ears? This fire was started by the Romans, but the Romans used the fire as a false flag to blame the Jews so they can then take the Jews down. They needed a reason and a cause to take them down. So they, Titus, Vespasian's son, plotted to start the fire and then blamed it on the Jews. Now begin to read. While the holy house was on fire, everything was plundered that came to hand, and 10,000 of those that were caught were slain. How many?
10,000.
Did the Bible just say they was going to die by the edge of the sword?
Yes.
Were caught, were slain. Nor was there a commiseration of any age. They didn't care about your age. Or any reverence of gravity. But children and old men and profane persons and priests were all slain in the same manner. So that this war went round all sorts of men and brought them to destruction. And as well those that made supplication for their lives as those that defended themselves by fighting. The flame was also carried a long way and made an echo together with the groans of those that were slain. And because this hill was high and the works at the temple were very great, one would have thought the whole city had been on fire. Nor can one imagine anything either greater or more terrible than this noise. For there was at once a shout of the Roman legions, who were marching all together, and a sad clamor of the seditions, who were now surrounded with fire and sword. And people also that were left above were beaten back upon the enemy, and under a great consternation, and made sad moans at the calamity they were under. The multitude that was in the city joined in this outcry with those that were up on the hill. And besides, many of those that were worn away by the famine, and their mouths almost closed, when they saw the fire of the holy house, they exerted their uttermost strength and broke out into groans and outcries again. Perea did also return the echo, as well as the mountains round about the city, and augmented the force of the entire noise. Yet was the misery itself more terrible than this disorder. For one would have thought that the hill itself, on which the temple stood, was seething hot, as full of fire on every part of it, that the blood was larger, you gotta listen to this, that the blood was larger in quantity than the fire, and those that were slain more in number than those that slew them. For the ground did nowhere appear visible, for the dead bodies that lay on it. But the soldiers went over heaps of these bodies, as they ran upon such as fled from them. And now it was that the multitude of the robbers were thrust out of the inner court of the temple by the Romans, and had much ado to get into the outer court, from whence thence into the city, while the remainder of the populace fled into the cloister of that outer court. As for the priests, some of them plucked up from the holy house the spikes that were upon it with their brasses, which were made of lead, and shot them at the Romans instead of darts. But then, as they gained nothing by doing so, and as the fire burst out upon them, they retired to the wall that was 8 cubits broad, and there they tarried. Yet did 2 of these of immense among men, who might have saved themselves by going over to the Romans, or have borne up with courage, and taken their fortune with the others, throw themselves into the fire, and were burnt together with the holy house. Their names were Mirius, the son of Belgaz, and Joseph, the son of Delius. And now the Romans, judging that it was in vain to spare what was round and about the holy house, burnt all those places, as also the remains of the cloisters, and the gates, 2 excepted, the one on the east side and the other on the south, both which, however, they burnt afterward. They also burnt down the treasury chambers, in which was an immense quantity of money, an immense number of garments and other precious goods. there reposited. And to speak all in a few words, there it was, that the entire riches of the Jews were heaped up together, while the rich people had there built themselves chambers to contain such furniture. The soldiers also came to the rest of the cloisters that were in the outer court of the temple, whether the women and children and a great mixed multitude of the people fled, in number about 6,000. But before Caesar had determined anything about these people, for giving the commandment any orders relating to them, the soldiers were in such a rage that they set the cloisters on fire, by which means it came to pass that some of these were destroyed by throwing themselves down headlong, and some were burnt in the cloisters themselves, nor did any one of them escape with his life. A false prophet, you guys better hear me, a false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction. A false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction. Listen to me. Who had made a public proclamation in the city that very day that God commanded them to get up on the temple, and that there they should receive miraculous signs of their deliverance. Now there was then a great number of false prophets, subdued by the tyrants to impose upon the people. There was a great number of false prophets that the Romans had paid. That they should wait for the deliverance from God. This was in order to keep them from deserting by leaving. And that they might be buoyed up above fear and care by such hopes. Now a man that is in adverse, I can't even say the word, adversity, does easily comply with such promises. Did you hear that? For when such a seducer makes him believe that he shall be delivered from those miseries which oppress him, then it is that the patient is full of hopes of such deliverance. Thus were the miserable people persuaded by these deceivers, as such as bellied God himself, while they did not attend nor give credit to the signs, you guys better hear this, that were so evident and did so plainly foretell their future desolation. But like men infatuated, with either eyes to see or minds to consider, did not regard the denunciations that God made to them. Thus, there was a star. Thus, there was a star resembling a sword which stood over the city, and a comet that continued a whole year before this event. Sign number one, a sword and a comet for a whole year stood over the city.
Where is it at again?
I'm in the book of Josephus. It's page 890 now. So here's the sign the Most High given. But then here go the false prophets telling the people that everything is okay. Sound familiar? What's going on right now? Economy collapsing, and the false prophet is rolling out saying, everything gonna be okay. Just relax. Jesus coming any day now. That's what they said. God gonna deliver you.
That's right.
Jesus coming any day now. Don't worry about it. Everything gonna be okay. Just stay here. Wait a minute. Didn't Jesus already talk to him in Luke chapter 21 over here, where he said, if you see Jerusalem compassed with an army, get your butt out?
That's right.
Christians today will tell you that that haven't happened yet.
Nope.
That already happened. We reading the story written by Flavius. Let's keep reading. Now there was a sword in the sky and a comet that continued a whole year. Thus also before the Jews' rebellion and before those commotions which preceded the war, when the people were come in great crowds to the feast of unleavened, now we're going into the feast. Now we're going into the feast. Hold up. I'm going to stop right there. They wasn't even supposed to be here. See how people get caught up in tradition? We can't go nowhere though. We got to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread coming up. God said, get out, you're going to die, fools. Put the sword in the air, put the comet in the air. That was the first sign. But you got false prophets coming to the people, telling the people what thus says the Lord. Don't go nowhere. America's going to turn around.
That's right.
The economy is going to come back. We got another president coming after this one. Like hell you do. This is it. Let's keep going. For those commotions which preceded the war, you guys hear me? When the people were coming in great crowds to the Feast of Unleavened Bread on the 8th day of the month Nisan, and at the 9th hour of the night, so great a light shone round the altar and the holy house, that it appeared to be bright daytime, which light lasted for half an hour. This light seemed to be a good sign to the unskillful. But was so interpreted by the sacred scribes as to portend those events that will follow immediately upon it. At the same festival also, a heifer, as she was led by the high priest to be sacrificed, brought forth a lamb in the midst of the temple.
She gave birth to a lamb?
Gave birth to a lamb, a heifer, gave birth to a lamb as they was about to sacrifice. This is another sign God trying to give them. At the same festival also a heifer, as she was led by the high priest to be sacrificed, brought forth the lamb in the midst of the temple. Moreover, the eastern gate of the inner court temple, which was of brass, you guys better hear this, and vastly heavy, and had been with difficulty shut by 20 men, and rested upon a basis armed with iron, and had bolts fastened very deep into the firm floor, which was there made of one entire stone, was seen to open of its own accord about the 6th hour of the night. Now imagine that door right there was very heavy. It took 20-some men to open it and close it. But it opened up by itself. And when it opened up by itself, now those that kept watching the temple came hereunto running to the captain of the temple, and told him of it, who then came up thither, and not without great difficulty was able to shut the gate again. This also appeared to the vulgar to be a very happy prodigy. Oh, that's a good sign. What that mean, child? That mean a good spirit walked in. Can you see the stupid? We're going to be blessed. The big old door that took 20 people to opened up all by itself. Watch this. This also appeared to be vulgar to a very happy prodigy, as if God did thereby open them the gates of happiness. But the men of learning understood it, that the security of their holy house was dissolved of its own accord, and that the gate was open for the advantage of their enemies. Some of them said it's open. we done for. The gate is open. It opened by itself. We going down. Can you imagine what the people said to him? Let's keep going. It gets better. So these publicly declared that this signal foreshadowed the desolation that was coming upon them. Beside these, a few days after that feast, on the 21st day of the month, Yar, a certain prodigious and incredible phenomenon appeared. I suppose the account of it would seem to be a fable, were it not related by those that saw it, and were not the events that followed it of so considerable a nature, listen to this, as to deserve such signals. For before sunsetting, chariots and troops of soldiers in their armor were seen running about among the clouds. Ooh, man, the anointing is coming all in here. They looked up in the sky and seen soldiers, troops, chariots with their armor. They were running amongst the clouds, and they were surrounding cities. Now, as this is, they seeing this now, they city surrounded, you guys. They city surrounded. Now here the Most High gave them another warning from the skies. Moreover, at that feast, which we call Pentecost, this is what we're here today on what? Pentecost. That's why I'm reading this. Let's see what happened on one particular Pentecost, can we? We ain't going to Acts chapter 2 and read that.
All right.
As the priests were going by night into the inner court of the temple, as their custom was to perform their sacred ministrations, they said that in the first place, they felt a quaking and heard a great noise. Listen to this. And after that, they heard a sound of a great multitude saying, "Let us remove hence." They heard a voice sound like a bunch of people saying, basically, can I break it down? Let's get the hell out of here. Time to get the hell out of here. That's what they heard. But let's see what they did then. But what it's still more terrible, oh, it gets better. But still, more, we're going to use the name that they use today in Christianity, okay? We ain't going to change the name. We know the name in here had to be Yeshua or Yeshua, one of the two. Don't worry about it. When he come back, he going to have another new name.
Both of them means...
But watch this. Yeah.
Yeah, most mean the same thing.
Watch this. This is sad. But what still is more terrible, there was a young man named Jesus, the son of Aeneas, a plebeian and a husbandman, who for years before the war began, and at the time when the city was in very great peace and prosperity. Before the war began, the city was in great peace and prosperity. Oh yeah. Told you I started in 1997, preaching the destruction of America. Everybody thought I was crazy. Didn't know what I was talking about. Preaching Jeremiah 51. That's not talking about America. Let's go, let's keep going. The city is in prosperity, everything is in peace. Everything looking okay. It's way before the war. Let's go. Let's see what's happening. Let's see how God talks. Can we? But what is still more terrible, there was one Jesus, the son of Annas, a plebeian and a husbandman, who for years before the war began, and at a time when the city was in very great peace and prosperity, came to that feast, whereupon it is our custom for everyone to make tabernacles to God in the temple. I don't think nobody caught that. We'll deal with that topic on another day. But they made tabernacles to God inside the temple. Where we get this thing at today? Where everybody making them outside? Let's keep going. That's another topic. Well, we just doing it, you know, no, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 100% the way the Bible say and the way my forefathers did. That's why I don't rush into nothing. People quick to run out there and do stuff. Can we watch this? They were in great peace and prosperity, and came to the feast whereupon it is our custom for everyone to make tabernacles to God in the temple. Began a sudden, this dude all of a sudden started to cry loud. A voice from the east, a voice from the west, a voice from the four winds, a voice against Jerusalem and the holy house, a voice against the bridegrooms and the brides, and a voice against the whole people. This was his cry as he went about day by day and night in all the lanes of the city. So here they having the feast of tabernacles, and then the Most High sent a spirit and put it on this young man named Jesus. He started prophesying. He started prophesying at the feast when everybody is in peace and prosperity. He started prophesying destruction. Get him out of here. He crazy. He don't know what he talking about. What are you talking about from the east, from the west? However, certain of the most eminent among the populace had great indignation at this dire cry of his, and took up the man and gave him a great number of severe stripes. They beat the hell out of him. Welcome to the prophetic. Yet did not he either say anything for himself or anything peculiar to those that chastised him. But still he went on with the same words which he cried before. Hereupon our rulers, supposing, as the case proved to be, that this was a sort of a divine fury in the man, brought him to the Roman procurator, where he was whipped till his bones were laid bare. Yet did he not make any supplication for himself, nor shed any tears, but turning his voice to the most lamentable tone possible, at every stroke of the whip, his answer was, woe, woe to Jerusalem. And when Albinus, for he was then our procurator, asked him who he was, and whence he came, and why he uttered such words. Why are you talking like that about America gonna be destroyed? Why are you talking like that? That it's all coming down. That the house of cards coming down. Why are you talking like that? You shouldn't be doing that. That's what they said about me now. He don't know what he's talking about. Label me a false prophet. That's what they was labeling him. A false prophet. Woe, woe to Jerusalem. Yeah, they were living in peace and having a good time. They can see their next little party, their next little celebration. Let's keep going. Asked him who he was and whence he came and why he uttered such words. He made no manner of reply to what he said, but still did not leave off his melancholy ditty, till Albinus took him to be a madman. That's what they're saying about us Hebrew Israelites right now.
Yeah.
We crazy. And dismissed him. See how they dismissed him?
That's right.
You see, they thought that they can just shut him up, and that if we don't have to hear from him, then the judgment ain't gonna come. If we can but just keep his mouth shut, get him out of here, it ain't gonna happen. Now, during all the time that passed before the war began, this man did not go near any of the citizens, nor was seen by them while he said so. But he every day uttered these lamentable words, as if it were his premeditated vow. Woe, woe to Jerusalem. Nor did he give ill words to any of those that beat him every day, nor good words to those that gave him food. But this was his reply to all men, and indeed no other than a melancholy presage of what was to come. This cry of his was the loudest at the festivals. At every festival, he got louder. And he continued this ditty for 7 years and 5 months without growing hoarse or being tired therewith, until the very time that he saw his presage in earnest fulfilled in our siege. He seen it. When he seen the siege happening, when it ceased, for as he was going round and about the wall, he cried out with his uttermost force, woe, woe to the city again, and to the people, and to the holy house. And just as he added at the last, woe, woe to myself also, there came a stone out of one of the engines, and smote him and killed him immediately. And as he was uttering the very same passage, he gave up the ghost. His job was done. That's the whole story of how everybody got killed in 70 AD in Jerusalem. They had a chance to get out. I'm praying now to myself and for my family and for you guys that we don't be so stupid as to miss the signs. Because if I see a damn sword in the air, I'm gone. If I see the door, something heavy that no one man, I'm gone. My wife just was saying the other day, we need to get phone numbers, we need to call everybody and tell everybody to meet everybody at one place. We getting close. When the Most High give me something like that, and give us something like this, he talking. What's the sign? I'm going to tell you one of them right now. They making it harder for you to get on the airplane.
That's right.